cultural icon Ozzy Osbourne has passed away, 76 years old, dude. The Prince of Darkness, man. I mean, either A, he should have passed away a long time ago, or he should have lived forever. I'm not sure which.
Man, I know like we talked about that earlier, and there really is something about that. It's just, it's almost like you honestly did expect Ozzy was just going to be around forever. You just got used to him being there.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I haven't had one hit me like this in a long time. And with all the superstars and people I love that have passed away, it's something about the Ozzy one was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's been weird, man. Like the last 10 years with Prince and Bowie and, you know, a ton of them, right? And stuff. And it's like, and it's, you never know like how it's going to hit you or how that they're going to suddenly fit into the cultural, you know, whatever you want to say in terms of until they pass away. And then it's like, and somehow with Ozzy, man, it just felt really big just because he's been so much a part of American culture, and I'm probably English culture as well, for so long, man. You know, going from Black Sabbath to having a solo career to the Ozfest to the Osbournes to just, it was like one thing after another, man. And so, yeah, it's interesting how just kind of putting that all in perspective. And it is a big one.
Yeah. I mean, Ozzy is one of those people that just found himself in a spot in metal where, well, like one thing that makes metal so great is the fans. Like fans are diehard in metal. You don't have fans that say like, I think like Rob Zombie said one time, like, oh, I was really into Slayer one summer. You know, it's like they're into Slayer from the time they're 16 to the time they're 60, like it, and they're just very fanatical about the love. And inside of that, you oftentimes find the groups where your death metal guy may say this about the glam guys, may say this about but for some reason, I think Ozzy was the one character that was in the middle of that everyone from every walk of hard rock and metal said, yes, he's the man.
Yeah.
Like and I just think like in the hard rock and metal world, you don't have people that hit that status. And Ozzy was there. He was totally there.
It is true, dude. He was sort of like the hub. I mean, they sort of get credited as being, officially the first sort of metal band and all of that stuff. And yeah, like everything kind of spun off Ozzy, and it's so rare. Like you only get really one of those people, like in each genre, where it's kind of like that's the one. Like that's the one. That's the person that kind of. They are the icon. They're the face of sort of a genre, and he was really that thing, and Black Sabbath was really that thing. So, yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's a weird one, and I love your backdrop now, man. You got the little memorial going there with all the Sabbath and the Oz and everything. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Like as soon as I heard that, it was just one of my first instincts the other day was to do. Actually, it was when you text me because I didn't hear about it until you sent that text over.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I thought is like, dude, I got to put up Ozzy on the wall, and it's just like all the Black Sabbath albums in chronological order, then all the Ozzy albums in chronological order, and you sit back and look at it, and you're like, it's easy to understand why he had the impact that he did. It's like, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep.
Man. Crazy.
What was your first, do you remember like the first time you ever heard Ozzy, or how did Ozzy, because sometimes like when we're young, these stars, these, musicians and things kind of come into our life in different ways. Like what was it for you with Ozzy?
Oh man, so easy to remember the first time I heard Ozzy. And I think I've told this story a bunch of times, or at the very least I've spoken about this guy, Jimmy Morris. The guy who brought the boombox on the bus. We're junior high. Jimmy's like a junior or senior. And he would just always bring his boombox on the bus, and he was just always playing stuff. And there was just this one day when I freaking heard Shot in the Dark for the first time. And I was like, dude, what is that? Like, what is that? And Jimmy was the one that introduced me to Ozzy that day with Shot in the Dark. I mean, I think I might have heard Iron Man, somewhere on MTV and, stuff like that. But actually like being introduced to Ozzy, it was Shot in the Dark. And that exact same day, he also played Your Love by the Outfield.
Oh, nice.
Jimmy, what is that?
Dude, I mean,
what are you doing?
Jimmy, where are you? Reach out.
Yeah.
Bring the boombox.
Yeah, Jimmy introduced us to so much great music. It was just absolutely ridiculous. He was almost as good as MTV in spreading the word of great music.
Your own personal radio station.
Yeah. So that was my first experience of really hearing Ozzy. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's hard for me to really remember when I first heard his music. Like you, maybe it was probably Iron Man or something like really huge and stuff. And that just kind of broke through into the mainstream even. But what I first remember about Ozzy are those first Ozzy albums, because I had family members. I had a cousin and she was really into like metal and she was really into Ozzy. And so her bedroom was like done up with like, Blizzard of Oz and like some magazine pinup, a poster over here. And it was like it was a lot of stuff, but I really remember the Ozzy stuff. And I remember without knowing what that was about or anything, just thinking like, man, that's hardcore, Yeah. Whatever hardcore is, that dude is it, And at least at that time, and it was just kind of like, sitting in the chair and the bat and the blood, or even though it's like probably like raspberries or whatever. But I mean, it's like, I don't know, all that imagery was just like, I don't know, man. It was just hardcore for me and to me at that time. And she was really into that stuff. I wasn't really into it at that time and didn't know anything about it, but I just remember that imagery similar to like Kiss, like how I was exposed to Kiss. It was really the imagery first. It was the posters and the covers and the card, little trading cards and stuff. And I think same with Ozzy. You kind of build up in your mind what that music must sound like based on the person you're looking at. So yeah, I think that was the first time I really knew Ozzy was a thing in the world. And then it was probably Iron Man or something, that I had heard first. But man, it's kind of crazy, something that kind of goes that it's probably more crazy that, you see something like that when you're a teenager. And then here we are sitting here now, 50, talking about his passing and stuff after like a 40 years of like, for probably for us at least, I'm sure some people go back even further, but of like history with this guy being, in the world. And now we're kind of in a post Ozzy world. So yeah, it's going to be different, man. It's weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, what was it? Monday he passed away?
It was yesterday. It was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday. And see, this is again something that's so funny because this weekend we did like a party for my mother in basically my hometown, which is about 4 hours from here, right? And so, I was driving out and I was about maybe an hour or so out and I'm driving down this, small town, little backcountry road. I remember having this vivid memory when I was driving down this one stretch. I was like, I remember in high school when we went back for a visit, I remember driving down this road listening to Iron Man over and over and over and over again. That thought was so vivid, like the scenery and it's a long flat stretch and it just like it all came back just like that, and all I could hear was was the way that I was just so fascinated by Iron Man. I could not stop playing that riff over and over and over. And then like 2 days later, Ozzy passes away. It's just like so ingrained in our lives in so many ways, man.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You got a favorite Sabbath album? Let's do like a favorite Sabbath album and a favorite Ozzy album.
Okay. Which is like one of the hardest things in the world. Because, almost all the albums I think are kind of so good that I think it naturally made me more of a song guy with Ozzy and Sabbath. But if like, gun to my head, I have to pick something, I'm going with Masters of Reality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that was just, I don't know. To me, it was just kind of like the pinnacle of Sabbath from here's the heaviness, here's the master rifter at work. I think from a vocal standpoint, it kind of captures Ozzy and just like I don't know. It's just everything about it I feel is perfect. Not to mention that I think in general, I would probably say Into the Void is my favorite Sabbath song. Mm-hmm. So of course, with that being on this album, but Yeah, but I mean, you open with Sweet Leaf and you close with Into the Void, and of course everything in between is just amazing. So yeah, I'm going Master.
Yeah, it's funny. I picked the same one.
Really?
And yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I mean, Sweet Leaf. I mean, and Into the Void, like you said. It's just, it's hard because there are just extremely iconic songs, especially like in my head, like on those first 4 albums that are just so good. And but yeah, if I you put a gun to my head, it's kind of hard. But yeah, you pick one. It's like I had to go with Master, dude. It's like it's so good. It's such a vibe. It's so like iconic Black Sabbath, and stuff. And yeah, I mean that's the one I had to go with. I mean you pretty much said it all, but yeah, that's the one I had to go with too, man. It's that's my go-to, So yeah.
Yeah, it's like typically when you first get into Sabbath, Paranoid is everyone's go-to.
Right.
And then once you kind of branch out, then it's like, okay, then people find is it Sabotage? Is it Master? Is it Four? But it's like the Paranoid's that initial hub.
Yeah, and it's one of those too where I twist my arm on just about any really good band that I love a lot of their albums, and depending on the day of the week, I'm going to give you a different answer,
Right.
So yeah, today it's Master. What about Ozzy? Is his solo stuff? And you got an album there that stands out?
God, same thing, man. It's again, gun to my head. If I have to pick one, I mean, I'm probably going to go with Bark at the Moon.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's the one I have to go with. Of course, he had the stuff he did with Randy, which was just awesome and so rejuvenating his career. And then, I think Zach kind of, taking him back to the heavier nature, kind of like after Randy passed. I think that was the good thing about Zach Wilde coming into the scene is he was a good transition for Ozzy going into the 90s and stuff like that, and kind of kept his sound very relevant in that regard. But there's just something about Jakey Lee's work on Bark at the Moon. Just like he and Ozzy were just a match made in heaven. I mean, yeah, that's just one. Yeah, and I think that's it because on everything, Ozzy sounds, especially those early years, he sounds the same. So every good song, it's Ozzy being great. It really is just kind of the work around him that makes one album a little bit better, or in front of another one. And like I said, I think Jakey Lee is just killing it on that album, on Bark at the Moon.
Yeah, that's
what
hard
about you?
Hard to argue that. I think for me, I had to go with Blizzard, dude. The debut Blizzard of Oz. I spun it today. I was spinning those first 3 records, which are the ones I really know, the most familiar with, I guess. Crazy Train, but like just so much great stuff on that record. Side 1 is just so good, and I don't know. I don't want to say it's the OG and all that, but I mean, there is something special about that record. And like you said, Randy Rhoads and stuff really kind of helps to elevate that record as well. But yeah, it's hard to be, you're not wrong no matter what you pick on this one. But yeah, right. I had to go Blizzard today. And there's actually times where Bark of the Moon is my record. But as I was going back and playing them today, I was like, oh God, Blizzard, dude, it's just so good.
That's the one I had my hand on, and I was like, oh, I got to go Bark.
Yep. So I know we talked a little bit, and we've probably talked about this in the past too, in terms of seeing Ozzy live. And just quickly, I want to touch on it just because I did have an opportunity to see him a couple times, and totally by chance, I just had a couple of friends. I had a roommate, actually. It would have been around 99. I can't remember what years I went. It was either 98 and 99 or 99 and 2000. And in the Bay Area in California. And got to go to the Ozfest. And so, it was just like my roommate and his friends were going. It's like, dude, you're going? I'm like, okay, cool. And, it was killer. I got to see bands like Slayer and Primus and Rob Zombie and stuff. So I got to see some great music and some great live shows. And the Ozzy stuff, the Black Sabbath stuff, was like just so incredible, dude. It was just... There's a part where he comes out on like this, if I remember correctly, like a crane or something, and he's on the end of the crane with this massive like fire hose, and he's like shoot like a you know, shooting it out into the audience and stuff, and it was so cool, man. And I really was fortunate enough to get that flavor of like, all right, this is cool, man. This is Black Sabbath. That's how they were billed, Black Sabbath. It wasn't at least the one I saw.
Yeah,
I can't remember if both years were technically Black Sabbath or what, but anyway, Ozzy. So it was really cool, man. I feel fortunate. Again, I lucked into it and got to go see those, but and turns out like that was a very sort of a big deal, you know, with Ozzy not getting accepted into like Lollapalooza and Sharon Osbourne saying, fine, we'll do our own festival. And really kind of launching some careers in the process, you know, of some of those early like metal, early in their career during like the late 90s, early 2000s. Kind of launching some bands that went on to have some great careers. But sorry, I know it's a sore subject for you probably, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. I never got a chance to see him. You know, the closest I ever came was kind of when they were, I think, in Chicago, which was about 6 or 7 hours from where I lived at the time, and you know, just trying to work it out and where money was and stuff like that. It was on the reunion tour. And yeah, it didn't work out. So I never got a chance to see him. And if I had the chance to see them, that would have been like probably, I mean, of course, I'd like to see him back in the 70s and blah, blah, blah. But like realistically, that would have been the time when I would have loved to have seen them was on the reunion tour.
Yeah.
Because to me, that was the perfect Sabbath, because it was all the old school songs, but it was done in a more modern, heavy, almost like more down-tuned, thicker, bigger way, if that makes sense at all. Yeah, so it's kind of like, to me, even listening to any type of a greatest hits or compilation with Sabbath, that reunion tour is, although there's two different tour albums, but both of those are the ones that I go to just because I love, like, that's pinnacle Sabbath to me. Yeah. So I really wish I could have seen them, but you know, didn't luck out.
We all have those ones that got away, man. We're just fortunate to see the ones that we do get to see. So, yeah, I mean, I have one last kind of thing maybe to talk about before we close, because it is so interesting, kind of the trajectory of his career, sort of the arc. Sharon Osbourne, like, is the choreographer to so many things that went on in Ozzy's life, man. But it is interesting, though, because Sabbath is such a big part, Ozzy's such a big part of that band, and Ozzy went on to have a killer career on his own. A lot of that stuff doesn't happen if, like, he ends up staying with Sabbath. So it's an interesting maybe thing to speculate, like, what happens if Ozzy never leaves? You know, maybe he stays with Sabbath. He doesn't kicked out. He figures it out, whatever. And Sabbath goes on to make a whole bunch more records with Ozzy as the lead singer. We don't get the Randy Rhoads thing. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's going to happen at that point. It is interesting to think about, like, all the other things that happened after that with the Osbourne show and we just talked about Ozfest and all that. I wonder if all that stuff happens if Sabbath just continues on their career.
I mean, yeah, I doubt it. I mean, yeah, I think it's one of those things where, was something lost by him not staying there with Sabbath? Sure. I mean, it has to be. But there was so much more gained by him leaving Sabbath.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, I keep referencing Rob Zombie. For some reason, I always remember the stuff that he said about Sabbath. Like he always said on those first 6 Sabbath albums, I only wrote every single riff in metal that's ever been written. He was like, you may take it and tune it to a different key. You may speed it up or slow it down. But any riff that you hear in any metal song is in those first 6 Sabbath albums somewhere.
Wow.
And I think there's something about that I kind of really buy into, is I think Sabbath kind of, I'm not going to say maxed out, but gave you the complete and full blueprint and the stuff that wasn't ready to, you know, I guess to be on, I shouldn't say that. The stuff that we wouldn't have seen was just so different. And when you start talking about Jake E. Lee, when you start talking about Randy Rhoads, and you kind of go to Zach, I mean, yeah, I think the combination of all of their work, of those 3 guys with Ozzy, is greater than what 5 more Sabbath albums would have been, especially going into the 90s and that type of thing. In the 80s, I think like every band, they probably would have struggled a little bit to be at the absolute pinnacle when there's the gigantic shift in here's new metal, here's grunge, here's like all of that stuff. They still would have killed it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they would have still been quite at the pinnacle.
Yeah, no, that's a great insight right there. I like that. Yeah, it's easy to think like, you know, they could have kept that train going and like we would have got another 6 albums just like the first 6, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
like you said, like likely that's not going to happen. And what you end up with is, you know, some really cool different stuff that came afterwards. So.
Right. Because like when you look at most of the writing, I mean, Ozzy did the lyrics, but he really didn't do a lot of the songwriting. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and it could be completely wrong. And if I am completely wrong, like, you know, guys, let us know below.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, I think it was that Ozzy did most of the writing or the lyrics. And so Iommi was coming up with the riffs and all that type of stuff. So then what I would say is go look at all the Black Sabbath albums that didn't have Ozzy on there, where there are all of these riffs and amazing songs that were only ruined in your mind because Ozzy wasn't singing. You know, and it's kind of like, even though those are still good albums, those later Sabbath albums do not come close to the first 5 or 6 Sabbath albums. They just don't.
Right.
And so sometimes it may be kind of hard for me to think that if Ozzy was there, that would have been the one thing that would have turned all of those into the next Master of Reality or the next Paranoid. I guess I don't really buy that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, you know, there it is. I mean, you know, a cultural icon, you know, gone. And of course it happens to everybody. But yeah, yep. It's a big one, man. It's a big one to think that we're going into a post-Ozzy world. So we just want to say a few words on it. Yeah, dude. So I don't know. Any final words on Ozzy?
Yeah, no. I think it's just awesome, and it's really cool just seeing everyone, you know, just kind of pouring out their appreciation and their respect and all of that. And it's like one of those things where like everyone here in the VC is doing an Ozzy tribute. You can't flip through Instagram or YouTube without seeing an Ozzy tribute. You turn on Fox News, Ozzy. You turn on CNN, Ozzy. Like yeah. It's like, again, the dude is touching everything everywhere still. And it's just a testament to, I mean, he was the one and only, man.
It's true. He was the one and only. He was the first and in some ways, maybe the last. And that's just what happens with iconic, you know, figures like him. So
I had this very weird thought, and I think it's kind of a morbid one, so probably not one to actually discuss or whatever, but just, you know, feeling the thing about Ozzy and, you know, his impact and all of that. I had this thought when I was driving to work yesterday, and I was like, who would be the next guy in line in the metal world that if that guy passed away, it would hit as close to the feeling of Ozzy?
I mean,
like I said, you don't want to, we don't want to wish that on anybody. So I almost want to start talking about it, but it was kind of an interesting thought process. And I was like, if I heard so-and-so passed away today, who would be the one I'd be like, no.
Yeah. And I'm sure everybody has their personals, you know, but it's like, you know, you hear about MJ, you hear about Prince, David Bowie, and others. Like that's big stuff, right? When those guys go, it's like there's a riff in the fabric of reality, and Ozzy's another one of those guys. And I don't know how many more, you know, look, when Mick Jagger goes, like, it's going to be massive, you know, because golly, want to talk about bookending starting in the early 60s and still going. It's insane. But I don't know about in metal, dude. I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
And again, I don't even want to mention any names, right? Because I don't want to jinx anybody.
It's like, that's not something you want somebody to just be talking about online. But yeah, it's just a fun thought process for sure.
For sure, dude. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, man. You know, rest in peace, Ozzy. Such a massive icon for a lot of people. Yeah, leave your thoughts in the comment section, man. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what your favorite Sabbath albums are, Ozzy albums, or whatever. Favorite stories. Were you guys see him live? Were you guys at Ozfest like I was? Let us know. So
nice.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.